Story time with some nostalgia for the Suction Cup GPS days. So once upon a time, before phone GPS was really a thing, but after MapQuest, the time of the TomTom, my grandma wanted to go up to Minnesota for the summer. So she wanted her car there, but she didn't want to drive alone. So I flew down. I visited with her and my uncle in South Carolina, where they live. Spent a few days down there, and then began the arduous 1,500-mile journey back. Now, Grandma was very adamant on driving, and she's sort of a terrifying driver. I figured, she's made it 70-some-odd years. She's probably not gonna kill us. We've been on the road for a couple hours. We're in Tennessee, somewhere up in the Smokies. It's been all highway, and things are going pretty smooth until we come to where the interstate was closed. Why it was closed, I don't know. Nothing for warning signs until we got right there. There was no detour. Just Tennessee DOT was straight up, "You shall not pass," and said, "Good fucking luck." She had one of these TomTom GPSs you suction cup to the windshield, but it's worth noting that she didn't believe that it knew where it was going ever. This is because when it said turn right in a quarter mile, she would take immediately the next right she came to. It didn't matter if it was a road or a driveway, a field approach into a cornfield. She was taking it. Of course, then the GPS would have to recalculate to try to get her back on course. At this point, she was convinced that she's been following the instructions perfectly, and the GPS just had no idea what it was doing, so she wouldn't listen to it. So once we got to this roadblock with no way to know how to get around it, because remember, we're in the mountains. You pull off one way, you fall to your death, and there's a sheer cliff on the other side. There's not a whole lot of roads that just kind of go around. She, despite my protest, decides we're not going to follow the GPS. We're going to go with this much better plan of following a random stranger down a random road. Mind you, we haven't talked to this random stranger. We don't know what his destination is, and we don't know if he knows how to get to his destination any better than we do, let alone our destination. But to her, this was the most solid plan of action we had. So after following this dude for like a solid 10 to 15 miles, he just stops in the middle of the road and gets out of his vehicle to come figure out why we're following him. At which point my grandmother explains that she thought that he would know better how to get where we were going than our GPS. But this dude is just as lost as we are and does not have a GPS. And the dumbfounded look on this man's face as my grandmother explained to him what we were doing is still just burned into my memory. And you'd think that's a good spot for this story to end. But no. He convinces my grandmother that maybe he should follow us and we should follow the GPS. And TomTom brings us to the part of Tennessee where if you listen hard enough, you can hear banjos all the time. She's doing like 30 overtaking corners on the wrong side of this dirt mountain road. And I'm like, "Can we drive on the right side of the road, please?" And she goes, "There's not going to be any cars out here." But there was a car and we almost died. But she goes, "Oh, that car wasn't that big. Collisions with convertibles don't count." So when it almost happened again with a full-size truck, I convinced her that we don't want to get in an accident and wake up a week later in a trailer being informed about how pretty our mouth is. Thankfully, she agreed and quit driving like we were in Hazard and let TomTom deliver us from deliverance.